What's up, Eigen family? So, we're back again in a new location. You may
Yeah.
recognize this is the new. Well, no, I'm not
That's
even
not
gonna
the
lie.
new place.
This is an undisclosed location, we'll say.
We're in a
But
bunker right now.
yeah. But guys, just make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe if you haven't already. Also, make sure you check out the website, eigenbros.com, Eigenbros on Instagram, Eigenbros on Twitter, Eigenbros2 on TikTok. And then also, guys, make sure if you're, or actually, I should say, thank you to the patrons. You know, you guys have been extremely supportive. We greatly appreciate everything that you guys are doing for us. You know, we couldn't do this without you guys, so we greatly appreciate it again. And if you want to be a patron, make sure you check out patreon.com/eigenbros.
Yes.
And let's go ahead and get into it, Juan.
Yeah, this episode is about applying to grad schools for scientists. I think application season is upon
Coming up.
us.
Yeah.
And, it's like most applications are due in the fall, but you got to really prepare for this
Yeah.
stuff. And if we're already midsummer, if you're not already doing these things, then
Yeah, I remember back when I was undergrad, people were like doing this like during their school year, you know, figuring out
in,
grad
like,
schools and
spring,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
At the very least.
Yeah.
So of course, every application cycle usually is for PhD programs are in the fall, right? I think probably most.
Yeah, I
would
think
say.
so.
I
Yeah.
think for master's programs is different, but we'll mainly be talking about the PhD program experience.
Yeah.
For master's programs, I believe most of the application cycles open up in the spring. Like,
Mm,
so you have to have already have done your application and submitted
right.
by the springtime. Anyway,
Right.
so a little bit about well, let me see. If I don't want to show my socks here. I'm gonna be very modest.
They shouldn't see it because usually I'll zoom in on
Oh,
the,
gotcha.
you know,
Yeah.
on the camera. Well, I guess, but you're gonna be editing the
Yeah,
podcast this time,
I
so
know.
hopefully, well, you can just crop your socks out.
True. Well,
Yeah,
I'll
for
just
those who don't know, we usually don't wear shoes when we're
yeah,
doing
yeah.
this.
Well,
Spoiler
I'll still
alert.
be modest and like I'm gonna be
Oh, you're messing up because you're doing the cross, the leg up.
I am, but I want to be serious, and this is how serious people sit.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say we're first gonna talk about like our personal stories. You need to hear from people that got in
Yeah.
to grad school because
Right.
hearing like how to get into grad school from somebody who's never gotten in is kind of like
Doesn't make much sense, does it?
no, it doesn't.
It's like those gurus that try to do business advice for you.
yeah. They're like you were saying. Their only way to make money is by telling you how to make
Right.
money. Yeah.
Right.
It's like that. It's like you don't. We want to make sure that you get good advice on how to get in.
Yes.
From people that have gotten into graduate school.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll begin with some personal stories. How Terrence, how did you? What was your path? What was your journey? How did you get into grad school?
Yeah, well, so you know kind of the story already a little bit. So me, I kind of applied, I wouldn't say later, but maybe slightly non-traditionally in some sense, in the fact that I went to work before I went to grad school. I mean, I didn't work long. I worked like 8 months or something before I applied. The job was so boring
You
and
said
oh yeah, it was so boring and so unchallenging, and like the hours were horrible. It was 100% travel.
Mhm.
I was like, I gotta get out of here.
Mhm.
But I applied after school, but I was so burnt out from physics. I was like, I'm not going to grad school. There's no way.
Mhm.
But then I realized, I still like physics a lot and I want to
Yeah.
learn more.
Mhm.
So eventually, what I did was I applied, while I was still working. Or I guess it was after I left working. And I would study GRE sometimes when I was working a little bit because you have to take the PGRE specifically for physics. There's the GRE and then there's a PGRE, so it's the physics GRE and the GRE. And I basically studied for those, like a good month or so. Took the test, did really shitty on it. Wasn't good. Really wasn't good.
Not
I don't
even
remember my
not
number,
even
but it was,
average.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't even average.
Damn.
It was bad.
You did
It was
bad.
bad.
Well, you studied only 2 months. Everybody that I know that
Well,
studies for
I'm a bad test taker in general.
that's true.
So I
But
think it was mostly conducive of just I suck at taking tests, so I didn't know.
But even people that study the GRE, I'm sorry to cut you off, but even people that study the GRE, I knew people that studied it for like 6 months. You know what I mean? Like they spent a long time studying for it,
Mm-hmm.
and even they did okay. Like they did
Oof.
average or slightly above average.
Yeah, see, wouldn't know how I'd feel about that if I spent all that time to just
Yeah.
do okay. So,
I know, yeah, but that's the average, and I think like there was only one person I knew that scored almost perfect,
wow.
but this gentleman, uh, shout out to him. He had been studying for a long time, and he had like private tutors, and
Mm.
he had the resources to really just like go all in
Mm.
for the GRE. But it's possible.
Yeah.
But anyway, keep going.
Yeah, so with the GRE, of course, your options get more open. I think I scored higher on the regular GR and GRE, higher in the language arts section, even in the math section. So that just shows you again how bad.
Yeah.
But it was like arithmetic math. Anyway, long story short, I did that for my application process. I applied to like 6, 7 schools, went for the dream miracle schools that I knew I probably wouldn't get into, like MIT, Stanford, those kind of things. And then I applied for some other, lower tier schools and mid tier schools. And I wound up getting into a school I wanted to go to because I actually did an REU there. Research experience for undergrads is what they call it. It's basically an internship for undergrads in physics where you work in the lab for a summer. And I knew that would be probably one that was in the bag because if you got accepted to an internship at some place, they're much more likely to take you. So that's another tip for you there. And I got in, and then that was it pretty much. And I also applied for a fellowship at the same time while I got in there. Since I strongly suspected I was going to get into that school, I filled out the paperwork for a fellowship in advance, but I just didn't pay the fee. But it was for a underrepresented minority scholarship fellowship. So I was like, I'm a black dude in physics, so I know I'm going to be like the only one to do this. So I'm not even going to pay the fee. If I get accepted, they'll just let me pay the fee.
Right.
And it was pretty much exactly as I expected. They were like, can you hurry up and do the paperwork? So I knew I was getting accepted to the school as soon as they said that.
Yeah. That's so funny. So that's pretty much how you got in.
Yeah, that's pretty
Dang.
much it. What about you?
Mine was kind of an asterisk because I kind of got in a non-traditional way.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll try to make it as sort of relatable as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I graduated a semester later than I had planned, so I had to really rush to like put in my applications if I wanted to go to school within the year.
Mm-hmm.
But the only way to do this was to apply to a fellowship program from from the American Physical Society.
Yeah.
And that way I could get in right away through the master's program for schools. And so they allocated you to different sites and stuff to go. And I got picked up by a school that was like, yeah, we're interested in you. I had multiple interviews. And I ended up deciding on this particular institution because I really liked what they had to offer, and that's how I ended up there. And I think the interview went well. I think they talked about my experience. They liked it. It was just a good match.
Yeah.
And so they took me in, and yeah, that was pretty much it. I guess it was
Nice.
a lot. Yeah, it was definitely the brunt of the work already had been done beforehand, but
Right.
deciding on what school to go with
Mm-hmm.
was kind of like kind of the next point that I wanted to get to, which is like how do you pick a good quote unquote grad school? How to pick the right grad school?
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I guess I'll start. So for me, I would actually probably say the number one. I guess it's kind of tied between these two things, in my opinion. Number 1 and 2, I can't really decide 100% which one is better.
Yeah.
But I think I'm leaning more towards location. So if you're a person who, I think that's
That is
really
a funny way to put
yeah.
it.
Like most people think like, oh, he's gonna say like, the school, or he's gonna say like,
professors.
the professors.
Yeah.
I think location is really huge. Because let's be real, guys. We all want nice lives. We all want to, enjoy our time.
Yeah. 6 years potentially that you're going to be living there. 7.
I mean, if you're a person who's coming from you know,
Big city or something.
yeah, or if you're a person who enjoys summers, hot summers and whatnot, maybe going to like Antarctica is not going to be the best place
Yeah.
for 6 years or something.
Uh,
And there actually is a research institution there called Ice Cube in Antarctica. Just
Hilarious.
just to point that out.
It's an igloo. It's a whole university.
Well, I guess it's not a university, but you can definitely be a person who does neutrino research and gets sent over there.
True.
So, but anyway, yeah, I'm saying so that's a funny example. But I'm saying basically that you should enjoy the place you're going to be at for a substantial amount of time because you're going to spend at least half a decade over there. So I would say, like, if you're a person who likes, seasons and whatnot, you should look for a place that has good seasons. If, you're in a place where you have a lot of friends there already, maybe that's interesting to you. Or maybe you don't want your friends there because you might get distracted. So, you should look, in my opinion, for a location first.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a place you're not going to like, or if you visit there and it's not, up to what you want from a place, I would say probably don't choose that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably number one to
It's
me.
an interesting take. You said there was a number 2?
The number 2 would be advisor of the research. So the advisor, and that's not saying like what they do per se.
Mm-hmm.
That's maybe the looking and seeing, let's say if you go to scholar.google.com, you can research professors there. So let's say if you wanted to check out Stanford, you can look up Leonard Susskind in scholar.google.com and see what research he does and see the papers that he's published. And that's a good way to kind of get a feel for some of the things you might be interested in. Because let's say you watch a lot of Leonard Susskind YouTube videos and you're into his stuff, then it'd be good to like look through that and then look through Stanford maybe as a place to go to.
Right.
So that would be the next one. But then, of course, the thing is, once you've gotten accepted to those schools, you should look at the personality of those people too. Because if you don't get along with them, if they're like massive dicks, and they just don't help their students at all, then that's probably going to suck for you. So so one thing that you should always do is talk to other graduate students, because they'll be like, yeah, like my professor, he's a complete asshole, or like, they always make us work or something like this, or do crazy amounts of research.
Yes.
So it's like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, speaking on that, I just wanted to highlight that because that is a really the make or break for a lot of people.
Yeah.
In grad school, like if
for what we've seen, for sure.
yeah.
When you have a bad professor, that's when you have the worst situations, it seems.
That can be the death knell for your whole graduate career.
Yeah.
Because
if you're wasting years in graduate school, I mean, eventually you can't just stay in graduate school forever. They're going to stop paying you. They will force you out. So you have a limited time to be there.
Yeah.
And you can't just continue to research and restart your stuff, because you still have to take the same amount of time to get your stuff done.
Yeah
So it's like you're just really, it's not bad to change once or twice, maybe even twice is pushing it, but change once at least is like, okay, you can probably get away with that fairly easily, because most people are just trying to get acclimated anyway their first time around. But if you're changing 2-3 times, you're getting,
if you're on your third time, it's time to look at greener pastures.
Start looking at Indeed.com and LinkedIn.
Yeah, because it kind of has to do with like, anyway. Yeah, let's just say that is a huge check point that you should kind of mark off if you want to decide if you want to go to that school or not.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to add more to that?
I guess, of course, just if once you figure out if they're cool people and they handle their students real well and they're real nice to the students and whatnot, of course, then the research comes next. If they do cool research. But of course, you would have already done that by looking at them from scholar.google.com, right. And then you can narrow down your search. And I guess building on top of that, of course, talk to all the advisors while you're visiting schools. If you got accepted at some, so let's say you got accepted at 3 schools, try to make those visits and try to talk to as many of those professors as you can.
Be the belle of the ball.
Yeah, you might fall in love with somebody who's like super cool. You just like, you guys like click immediately, and you're like, oh, this person's who I want to work with in a field you may not have expected. Like, the thing about physics is most physicists I've noticed like all physics. So it's not really like you're going to be like, oh, I'm going to be stuck with this crappy field of physics. It's like Physics is kind of cool no matter what area you go into. Like nuclear, particle, condensed matter,
Yeah.
all this stuff is pretty badass. You're always gonna have some cool stuff to do. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't worry super much about the research.
No, I would.
Okay, let's get
I would. Yeah,
your response as well.
my take on it is that number one, I didn't expect you to kind of go sideways on it, but
Okay.
I was also
This is
going to
good
go
though. This
sideways.
is good content.
Yeah, my sideways take was going to be pick the department or find a department. This is really important. Find a department that has the same philosophy as you do.
That's actually a big one.
Your philosophies are aligned. Because like if the department doesn't vibe with what you think is important in terms of like what is really important in like in your graduate school experience, then you're not going to have a good time. There's going to be a lot of friction.
Now, can you give some examples of what you mean by that?
So I would say, let's say the department says grades here are really important. You know, spend a lot of time. The how you do in your course material and your coursework is really, really important. More important than your actual research. And you really are there for the research experience and all that, then you're going to have a bad time.
Right.
Because the department is going to look at you as like, oh, this person doesn't take coursework as seriously as they should.
Right.
And they're going to, as much as you would like to think that maybe they'll be fair in their like treatment. It's definitely not. The academics and departments I think are usually more, especially coursework is geared towards more theorists anyway.
Right.
So if you're an experimentalist and you go into a school that's like high theory and like they really push for this, you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah.
And I speak.
And most academics are theorists, so.
Yeah. And I speak from experience, as you can tell. Oh wait, yeah, I meant to say. Actually, I know a buddy. A friend of mine. I won't say who it is. Nah, but I speak from experience in this case because it's very like true for me that the professors just didn't really like the sort of experimentalists. They sort of treated experimentalists a little.
Yeah, they didn't respect it as much.
Yeah.
They're like, it's all about you got to know courses really well,
Yeah.
and you got to know tests really well.
Yeah, but it's of course at the end of the day it's a balance of both. But the department definitely leaned more towards the coursework and grades and these sort of metrics of standardization.
Which I have a suspicion is most physics schools,
You think so?
unfortunately, because the thing is, the academic teachers are mostly theorists, and they're the ones that basically steer the course of graduate students in the beginning, right? Because you have to take quantum mechanics, you have to take classical mechanics, you have to take these classes that probably a theorist is going to be teaching.
Yeah.
I think it's a rare day when you get an experimentalist who's going to teach something like that.
And the analog to this in other fields of science would be you have to go through their checklist. That's basically what I'm saying is go through their checklist of what's the metric? What's the ruler that they're using to gauge for you to get your PhD? They say, okay, you need to pass comps. You need to get an average GPA of what 3.0, right?
Right.
You need to get or whatever it is.
Probably 3.0.
You need to do maybe an oral presentation or some kind of like a prospectus or something, like sort of like
some written kind of
some written
pre-thesis
thing.
type deal.
Yeah, to give them an idea of what you're studying. You need to go through the whole checklist.
Yeah.
And see if you vibe with any of it. Because if you don't, if you say, "Oh, I'm not really great at tests," then maybe this school you're not going to be a good fit for it because they put tests above like everything. So
right, and to find that, just to comment one is you can usually find that in the graduate student handbooks.
Yeah.
So like the websites, they'll say like if let's just say you type in physics, wherever physics, UC Berkeley, graduate student handbook, then you can usually find what their checklist of the criteria you need to meet to be able to graduate as a PhD.
Yeah. And that's really important, like I said, because those you can look at those as checkpoints that you have to meet. And I mean, if you're not a social butterfly, tests like, okay, there are two avenues that schools take usually. It's either a written comps exam or like you do an exam.
Sometimes a combination of the two.
Or a combination of the two.
Yeah.
The thing is, you need to assess yourself and say, I'm not great at written tests, but I'm great at oral exams.
Yeah.
So it's the school, you getting to that PhD, the oral exam, if talking is a bigger strength for you, then go for the oral exam.
Right.
If you're better at test taking and you just do much better at written problem solving, then go for that. Go for the written.
Right.
Like, play to your strengths. Like,
and of course, guys, this is a min-max problem, basically.
What do you mean?
Saying like all these criteria, because I said the location,
Yeah.
the teacher. You're saying the philosophy. Like, you're probably not going to get all of these.
No.
So you need to pick the ones that matter the most to you prioritize them.
Yeah.
And then go with the ones you want. Of course, you could have a great lucky break where you get all of what you want, but never count on that in life, because that's going to be a rare, a rare thing to get always the exact thing that you want.
Yeah. Yeah. No, really. Itemize these and then think about, like, okay, which ones are more of a priority for me.
Right.
And yeah, like, what was I gonna say? In terms of like the philosophy of like how you go about sort of navigating the items or these lists. Just like I said, be sure that you're okay with them and that you see yourself successfully going through these hoops.
Right. Right.
Because if you don't, then you might want to have a reality check with yourself and be like, this might not be the institution for me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and lucky
But
enough,
of course, the other thing is, that's really common in grad school is imposter syndrome. So maybe get a couple of objective outsiders to tell you some things, because sometimes this is a very common thread with academics. They have a much lower self-esteem than they actually should. Because everybody believes they're like not worthy of anything.
Right. Well, yeah.
So, don't get too internalized and like, oh, I can't do it, I suck. That's very common in academia. Everyone thinks they suck.
Everyone does think they suck, but you need to look at yourself. Like, if you're at this stage where you can get into grad school, you're pretty good. You're pretty well ahead.
Yeah.
And
if you get accepted, you're meant to be there.
Yeah, you're meant to be there.
Yeah.
So
try as best you can to analyze yourself in an objective light by using objective markers. I got accepted. I should be there.
Yeah. I should be there.
Don't fall into like, oh, I shouldn't have even gotten accepted. Like, you got accepted already. That's a hard, marker that you should be accepted.
Yeah. And number 2 kind of has to do with your advisor thing. But really try to map out what you want your career to be. Like, what's your ideal position? What's your where do you want to be? Do you want to, hopefully by now, by the point of you applying, you've realized, oh, I want to teach an institution. You want to maybe do research, or like you really need to sit down with yourself and say, what do I want to get out of this? Obviously, your research advisor goes into it. Picking a good research advisor is important. But then also, maybe you might want to sit down and ask yourself, do I just want a master's degree or do I want a PhD?
Right.
Because a PhD comes with certain privileges and obviously titles. But
yeah. And you could figure that out while you're going through it too. Because I kind of did as well. I was like, I don't even know if I want a PhD yet. I'll do it because I want the knowledge.
Yeah.
And then I realized, I don't really want a PhD.
Yeah, like for me, like coming to the realization that maybe the PhD is not something that I really want is it came down to like because for me, I want to be able to teach at the university level. And you can do that with the master's, although you wouldn't get tenureship. Yeah. Traditionally.
And you'll be treated like dog shit, probably.
Yeah. But it's like, you get the same treatment even if you're a PhD.
If you got tenure, you're straight, though.
Right.
They're treated like gods.
Right. But I would say look at what you want. Like, look at the statistics also for, like, if you want to be an academic, have a realistic picture of what that looks like.
Right. Right. Like, factor in all the things you're going to have to do. The postdocs, the endless postdocs, the percentage of people who are academics, and the percentage of people who don't become academics. It's like, of course, you don't want to discourage your dreams, I say. Of course, because regardless, you can kind of finagle your way into different things. Maybe you may not have the exact vision of what you want to do, but let's say maybe you can become a 3 blue 1 brown where you make awesome animation videos or something, and that's, you can still go down that route. So don't, of course, get so focused on one particular thing you want to do, which is what you see a lot of people do sometimes, where they'll be like, oh, I can never get in academia, so why even bother?
Yeah.
It's like, just do what you like find a level lower than that, than becoming a professor, and find can you be happy also just getting a PhD?
Right.
And then maybe can you be happy just knowing physics, and then take it one layer at a time, and then just go from there.
Yeah. True. I guess I just don't want people to be disenchanted, because I've seen that disenchantment happen where it's like, oh, damn, this is going to be really hard.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you signed up. If you want to go to academia, you have to do, at least in the sciences, I think it's more traditional now, to do 3 postdocs before you even land an associate professor position.
And a postdoc, for those who don't know, it can be like a year-long thing of,
or 2.
Yeah, that you're basically grinding it out like a professor, where you're working, slaving, doing research, and it's brutal.
It's brutal.
It's like basically grad school again, only now you've more responsibility.
Yeah,
so it might be worse.
Yeah, and I'm sure in the social sciences, this is probably more competitive than the sciences.
For sure.
The sheer volume of people that go through these programs are just
we won't even
orders
go
of
down
magnitude,
that route.
probably. So anyway, I think those are the two conditions there.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully that can steer you in the right direction. But as far as the content that gets you in, what gets you in grad school, there would say I think we kind of agreed on all these. There's 4 conditions.
Okay.
But they're not. This is by no means exhaustive. This is just the
major
points.
Yeah. Okay.
1, research. 2, networking. 3, grades. And then 4, what I think is a good interview. So.
Right.
Those are the things that we think would get you in. So first off, research.
Could we put those in an order of most important to least important?
I think maybe that might be a little subjective. What do you think?
I would say networking number 1.
Really? Okay, I would say
because my philosophy of life is always it's who you know, not what you know. Yeah. Networking will always serve you well, and those will take you to the highest levels of society possible. So if you have to focus on one, that's the most important one for sure. What's up, Juan?
I was gonna say.
Is the battery good? Hold on.
No, you're good.
Okay.
I was just looking at the camera just because I was like, I want to see if I look good. No, I'm just kidding. No, I was gonna say, what is? I think it's more important. What is the research that you did? I agree with you on the networking, but I think research is kind of, maybe equal to networking. Almost 1-to-1, almost. But I put it slightly above for personal reasons. But it's because I sort of did a cold call sort of way. I just applied. I didn't know anybody. There are ways you can get into grad school without knowing somebody.
Yeah.
But like you're saying, if you do want to, because your way was networking in some way, the way you got in.
Well, the number one thing you have to get with grad schools that annoys everyone is the 3 letters or 2 letters of recommendation.
Oh, I see.
So when I say networking also, it's you have to have people who can speak on your behalf and write you letters of rec. That's annoying. That's an annoying process because now you're reliant on 3 other people. So it's showing if you can even manage handling getting 3 people to write something good on your behalf. And then it also has to be good stuff, So it's you need to know people. That's one thing you need to realize is you're never going to, you may be a merit person and think that you're going to be able to just write off of merit, but most graduate schools that I've ever seen, you have to have letters of recommendation. I don't know if I've ever seen a graduate school where you don't have a letter of recommendation.
Yeah, no. At least
And that's you have to, and you have to do it at a specific time too. So you have to say, can you this letter of rec from me, this month or whenever?
Yeah.
And follow up with people and all this stuff. So.
Yeah, don't do it last minute because that's one of the worst ones.
Yeah, the last minutes don't ever go through. Yeah. So with me, when I do letters of rec, I always have backups too. It's you have the 3 that you will have right, and then you have the reliable people that that you can just have them write something split second. So it's like a whole song and dance where networking, if you know more people, the better off you'll be.
I think these are a little bit more interrelated than we think then.
Yeah.
Because research to me is that networking aspect.
Because you're building the network that way.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Because, and I guess they sort of do piggyback off of each other because the research to me is not only differentiates you from other students because most students would just get a letter of rec from a professor.
Yeah.
That said they did well in the class.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
Yeah. Just one line. He got an A.
Yeah. He did really well. He understood. He mastered the subject. Yeah.
Send.
But then there's also, which is nothing wrong with that. If that's an adequate way to get a letter of rec. Don't feel like it's not valuable to do that because it is. But what has more weight is your research. If you do research, the professor that you worked under, or maybe the postdoc that you worked under.
Right.
Because those are two avenues of
100%. So you just knocked out 2 letters right there, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then a professor, like you said, you could probably find at least one that you did good in.
Yeah, that was my cheat code.
Maybe.
Essentially, I found a postdoc, a professor, and then my research advisor.
There you go. It's perfect.
I actually had a buddy of mine who's a professor, right? One of mine.
That's a true cheat code.
That's the great thing when you, a buddy of mine who was actually,
he actually was a professor.
Yeah. Nice.
But we would play Dungeons and Dragons every week together. So we were friends. Yeah. I had no real professional relationship with him, but he was my backup guy in case one of mine fell through, and one of mine did fall through. So I was like, "Hey, bro, can you just write me a letter of rec?" He's like, "Sure."
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's good to have those kind of hacks too as well.
That is that is also a great network hack because you can just use people that you're cool with.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? Something similar happened. I think the postdoc that I tried to get to write me a letter fell through. And as postdocs are usually, they're like glorified wage slaves.
Yeah.
It's
yeah, they're close to graduates pretty much. They're almost the same.
Just paid a little bit more.
Yeah, they're slightly more senior. They're senior graduates basically.
Yeah. Yeah. But the professor I think that I got was somebody that I knew that got me into an undergraduate research program, and she really helped me out. But yeah, I knew her kind of on a personal level. So she was like, "Yeah, I'll write you a letter. It's fine."
Nice, nice.
Yeah. So making those relationships is super important.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I think you kind of get a 2-for-1 whenever you do research because you're going to be working with most likely a postdoc, and your research advisor. So if you get close to those two, you can potentially
you're killing multiple birds with one stone. Yeah, I agree. Those are good.
So those I think those kind of play into each other. But like I said, I would put more emphasis on the research because that I feel like would get you more, would hold more weight than just blank networking. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. I'm not sure if I'm convinced of that.
Yeah.
But perhaps.
Yeah. What was the third one? I forgot. Grades.
I don't know. Oh, grades. Okay. Grades are kind of like par for the course. It's like this is what people treat as like the minimum. Like you got to at least get your grades right, or you ain't even in the running.
Yeah.
Like just a 3.0 is pretty reasonable. If you get under that, I'm still sure you could probably get in somewhere if you're really badass, if you have good research and whatnot. Like I've known buddies who had under 3.0, but they're just really good at research.
Yeah.
Like they're top, they're the top levels of things. So they got accepted to all kinds of things. So it's like you can get around it. It just means you have to overcompensate in other ways. Right.
Yeah, very true. And that's the thing. Like you play to your strengths, right? If you're a hands-on person, and you're not like a total bookworm.
Yeah.
Then do the research. Be like, I'm going to put most of my time and effort in doing this because I find value in this. And the institutions that really, hopefully, if they find value in that too, they will put you up higher on the list.
Right.
So.
And actually, just for the audience out there, the most impressive people I've met usually are under 3.0 type people, like who actually do a lot of good research.
Yeah.
And I guess that's because they're doing research. But maybe it's the other way around. I don't know. Maybe because they suck at grades, they have to do a lot of research. But most of the impressive people I've met as physicists, like real, they're usually the better researchers and experimentalists I've noticed.
Yeah. But this is also you valuing research and experimental.
Okay, yeah. But I'm like, this is what the career is, right? At the end of
Yeah.
the day, this is what we're all trying to go towards.
True.
We're
But
either
if
trying to
you're-
become the career that we're seeking. We're not trying to get good at grades or
Right.
get good at taking tests. So it's like this is the actual skill set you're trying to go for.
Right, but to that, if you're a theoretician, I think maybe it's more important for you to put your eggs
Yeah.
in the basket of.
Yeah,
Of
but I would
grades.
argue things like grades and tests still are somewhat separate from that,
Yeah. Well, it's
especially tests.
Well, I will say that it's harder to do research if you are a theoretician too, because there's so
Yeah.
many layers of information that you have to ingest.
Yeah.
Like sometimes even to contribute, you need to be at a graduate level.
Right.
So
Right.
for if you're in any field and you're doing theory work, or if you want to do theory work, the brunt of the work is grades. Like that's how they measure your value,
Mhm.
your GRE scores,
Right.
your physics GRE scores, or whatever field of science that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
If you're trying to do theory work, they look heavily at those things a little bit more because you can't do research. You know what I mean? Or it's harder
Yeah.
for you to do research.
Yeah. Like, yeah. But theoreticians, they do programming things.
That's true.
So,
yeah. So there are ways to contribute, I guess.
yeah. They do a lot of programming in theory nowadays. You pretty much have to, I think. Well, maybe you don't, but, we have computers now, which is new. So people always want to chase the untapped areas, right? And if
Yeah.
you can do computing stuff, then you're chasing the untapped. So,
Yeah. And
what was next?
I was gonna say good interview.
Right. Good interview. Okay.
A good interview, I think, is
Uh-huh.
like pretty. It'll put you up there. My
My
interview
interview was great.
really.
Yeah, because it was non-existent.
Oh. Well, because you got into the networking, so I can see why you put networking up high. Because doing an RU is networking.
Yeah.
It's like you went there, people know you, they bring you back on board. They're just
Right.
like, yeah, you're in.
But the effed up part was the guy who I did my research in the RU was the one who dropped out on me.
Oof.
So I was like, you little bastard.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of that.
I saw him when I went to school, and he's like, well, what are you doing here?
No.
I'm like, yeah, buddy.
I'm back.
I'm back still.
That's funny. Yeah, no, I could see that. I could see that. For me, I felt like what got me in was the interview. Like I had two or three interviews with schools. There was one. Speaking of location, one of them was in California, and I was like, "Oh, I want to go to the one in California."
I was trying to surf.
Yeah, I was like, "I'm trying to
Be a beach
become
bum.
a beach bum." The campus is like,
Beautiful.
maybe less than a mile away from the beach. I was like, "This is gonna be beautiful, perfect. I'm gonna be going to the way. I'm gonna be riding the waves, dude.
Yeah.
That kind of thing." And then the interview did not go well.
Oh.
And
So what happened?
if I were to characterize it, it was there was a lot of uncertainty on my end.
Mm-hmm.
I think I gave the department the wrong impression because they were looking for someone that had more confidence in completing the program. And they were saying, like, how do you feel about meeting the requirements for the
coursework?
For the coursework and
Okay.
the program itself.
Okay.
And I was like, well, like, I'm not great at tests. I told them that. And
I see. You were a little bit too honest.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, this is another thing that I've had to learn recently too. Is like, I'm used to underselling myself quite often, but in the world of like,
The real world?
yeah, in the real world of like jobs and things, people oversell themselves massively. So you have to make a switch when you're in that world to oversell yourself. Like if you go just type in like requirements for like entry level jobs on like LinkedIn or Indeed and something, you'll see how crazily like inflated these things are. And I think that's because people tend to oversell the hell out of themselves.
Yeah. It's sort of like a dating market where it's like, I want a 6-foot
Right.
athlete. It's like,
Right.
I don't know if
The
that's
employers are like they're making their
They're the
checklist of the
models,
perfect employees. Right. So they put all these insane criteria on there.
you need to have a Ferrari, you need to have a 6-figure job.
Right.
It's like, I don't know if you're looking at the average statistics here, or if you're just kind of
Right.
the 1% of
Right.
like.
Yeah, this is basically employers treat their their job requirements like Tinder profiles,
Yeah, exactly.
and specifically for women's Tinder profiles, or what women put for Tinder profiles.
The models of the world. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I think they do see themselves. I mean, like, jobs like that, they do see themselves as attractive, like, sort of places to be. I think they do sort of hold themselves to a higher esteem.
Yeah,
And
it's an
us-
employer's market.
It's an
right?
employer's market. And
Yeah.
us as the lowly
Employee.
we're looking for a morsel of
Yeah.
work.
Yeah,
And we're just
please,
like,
sir.
please take us
Please
in.
a job, any job, sir. I'll work 72 hours a week,
Yeah,
please, sir.
Yeah. So they know that this is the case, and
Yeah.
it's sort of similar to I think academic institutions, although naively of me to think it wasn't,
Yeah.
because I, like you were saying, I think I admitted that I wasn't playing to my strengths, and
Yeah, you were underselling yourself,
Yeah.
which is what you typically like. It's like under promising, over delivering, right?
yeah,
That's the classic phrase. You want people to
underestimate you.
Yeah, you want them to underestimate and be extremely pleased with the product they get,
Right.
right? But
Yeah, I will set the bar really low. I'm for
Right.
me, like,
Right.
just please don't expect
right,
anything of me.
and maybe this is the mindset they understand, and they say, oh, if this person's underselling themselves, even though they're overselling, what can they possibly do? And now everything's so skewed, in the
Yeah,
wrong
yeah,
direction.
exactly.
Nobody has any kind of understanding of what realistically makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
Everything's so overinflated.
There you
My
go.
whole undergraduate career was just inflating my resume as much as possible. Like, I'd go on Linux, do a few regular expressions for a day, and then I put that on my resume.
Hilarious.
So it's like you gotta play the game
Yeah.
of overselling your achievements in some
That
sense.
is
Don't go too ham. Don't
I don't even know what's a good example.
Don't overinflate something. Like, if you've only worked 2 minutes on
Yeah.
something and you're like, yeah, I'm proficient in
Right.
this programming language that I only spent.
Yeah, don't say
half a
like,
day.
oh yeah, I've been working 10 years on, Ruby and Rails or
Yeah.
something, and then you only did it for
Yeah.
like 10 minutes. That's the thing.
Yeah, I think finding a good middle ground is important. And I think that's how I got the second position, because the second interview was with the institution that I ended up being accepted at. And there I treated it a lot more like, well, here's what I have to offer. What do you have to offer for me? Like, it was a lot more. There was a lot more equity, or
Right.
seeing each other on the same level.
Right. It's a give and take relationship in some
Yeah.
sense. Yeah, you have to get used to doing that, and that's also a skill you got to learn, and just in life in general. Like, you have to look at yourself more as like I can bring these things to the table. Now, what are you offering me? It's like, because the thing is, these systems will take advantage of you if you're just so willing to bend over backwards for them. They're just gonna like, oh, fine, we'll just take advantage of them all the way, and it will happen continuously. And this is one thing that graduate students really need to get over, because it's so annoying for other graduate students when they just bend over backwards for everything.
They set a standard that is not only unhealthy,
Yeah.
but also
It screws everyone else over in the process, because then the institutions also get used to this. It's why we have shit pay. It's why we have terrible dental health. We're getting maybe a little bit too pessimistic.
no, but that's what I'm saying. Like, go back and that's what I'm saying. Find the right institution that aligns with your philosophy. You might have
Yeah.
institutions that's like, yeah, we pay our graduate students their share of money. Like, we pay them what they deserve, and and whatever that looks like to them it's kind of the important aspect of it. Like, be sure to in your interview process, be sure to stress your priorities. Because I asked the institution that I went to, I was like, what is the retention rate?
Yeah.
Flat out asked them, like, how do you support your students? What
Right.
does that look like? How do you give them the opportunity to succeed? And they were like, well, we haven't had people fail out yet. And then I was just
None?
like, what? Yeah, that's exactly what I said.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, well, I mean,
It sounds BS to
it
me.
sounds like BS to me.
They're like scrubbing the internet of their
Yeah,
records.
And I was like, okay, well, I don't know. This is the thing. Naively, you have to kind of wear your
Skeptic's hat.
skeptic's hat
Yeah.
a little bit, and be like, okay, these people want me to come in, be a part of their institution, contribute to, their culture of. Like
Sure.
you're going to be teaching more than likely.
Oh
And-
yeah, if you're on any kind of assistantship, you're definitely going to be teaching.
Yeah.
You know, unless you're a research assistant, but you usually don't get that until later on in your career.
Yeah. So you are also an asset. You're going to be a full-time employee representing their school.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
So
They want to check all boxes that you're going to be a-okay.
Yeah. So be sure to stress out an interview, and I think that's how I got in. I pretty much just treated it like as much as an interview for me as much as it was for them. The first interview I treated it more like I was desperate because I guess I really wanted to go to school in California, folks. That's
Right.
kind of what the thing is. And I think
So your desperation kicked in, and
Yeah, I
they
think-
saw it, and they're like, "Nope."
I think they could see the desperation,
Yeah.
so like they were just like, maybe we'll pass on this.
Right. Confidence is key, folks. Confidence is key.
Confidence is huge.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there anything else? We still have a couple more minutes, like maybe 10, 15 to kind
Okay.
of burn here. But like, is there any other sort of closing or maybe thoughts that you think are kind of, or maybe points that we outlined that you should stress, that there should be more emphasis on?
Let's see. So,
And not just in physics. I mean, like, I want this to be as like
um,
sort of universal as much as we can make it.
right.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm gonna take a sip of my.
not too many. I mean, just there's many ways to get around these things and finagle the systems and whatnot. So just you may be surprised in what you can get into. Just apply and do the process, and network with people and whatnot, like we said, and you can get in. You can get into these things realistically. Like I thought it was going to be. I was very unconfident whether I'd be able to get into grad school because my PGRE was not good. My GRE was like, it's average.
Yeah.
So, you never know. I mean, there's places to go,
That's true. Try again.
Just try.
I've known people that have they have a dream institution. Let's say you do have let's say you're here watching like, oh, I want to get into this is the institution I want to be at. This is a school I've been wanting to go since I was a kid. I've known people that have applied every year
Oh my God! Just to get in that one.
just to get in that one. And after
That's when you gotta let go.
but this is persistence breaks resistance, my friend.
Okay.
They actually were able to get in
Wow.
after like 7 application cycles.
Jeez.
Who knows if they stayed? I don't know anymore. Like,
They're like, oh, it's not that great here.
yeah, it actually sucks. Ask yourself if that's really what you want, and if this is the school, you got to make it happen once you're in. Like, do everything you can to stay, if that is what you want.
Yeah.
But don't let your dreams be dreams, if that's
Right.
what you really want. you
Right.
know? And as far as like sort of being realistic with yourself, a lot of people have disillusionment in grad school once you're in. Applying, like I said, or like we were saying, is one of the harder parts, because a lot of the work that you do, your whole undergraduate experience is leading up to this point.
Yeah.
If graduate school is what you want,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you would have to have spent 4 years really wanting to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, your window of opportunity to get in is kind of, your chances
Passed.
are much slimmer, I would say.
Yeah, it gets harder and harder the longer you wait. Not
Yeah.
impossible, but it gets harder for sure.
Why do you think that is? Let's say there are people looking at this like, they're like, oh, I'm thinking about going back to school. I only have my bachelor's.
Right. After how long of a period?
Let's say 5 years.
Yeah, because I think people just see you as kind of like you're not fresh. Like people think of like young people as like they have new ideas and they're ready to work because you have that fire of like, and also you can be exploited
Momentum.
more easily.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, this idiot will actually do this work and not complain about it because they don't know anything about the real
We'll
world.
pay them a measly
Yeah.
wage.
And they can eat ramen noodles and still bounce back and be fine, So when you're older, it's like you kind of you see past these things. Your fire is not as much, right? You may have forgotten a bunch of stuff over time, so you have to relearn a lot of things. So, as you get older, it's like you're declining in the things that people want. But I mean, it's not impossible to do. I was already kind of older when I was starting physics. I got out of undergrad at like what, 28 or something like that. Yeah. So I mean, I was pretty late for an undergraduate. In some sense, like I think average undergrad is like 22 to graduate.
No, I think I think the average is 25, man.
25?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Wow.
Nationally?
Yeah.
I think it's 25.
Oh, maybe so.
I don't want to inject fake news in the. I'm always great at doing that. But let me see. No, because.
But either way, I'm above the average, so that shows you I'm definitely in the older
see.
camp. Maybe that's because there's a lot of non-traditional students as well who go back at like 40s and stuff, so it skews it to 25 maybe.
Yeah. Average age of undergraduates 26.
Okay.
24.
Yeah. Okay. So not that bad,
Yeah.
So 29. I mean, I was an undergraduate for like what, 9-10 years, so.
And
can be
half
done,
that time was
folks.
just partying.
Yeah, I mean that's 100% true. No fabrication.
But that's the thing. I don't know. I do say, that's what I'm saying. Don't really worry about. I know people that wanted to do the graduate school route, so they accelerated themselves to be like, I got to get out of 22.
Yeah, that's annoying to me. It's like you don't need to rush. What are you in a rush for? I mean,
No,
it's like.
But that's what I mean. If you're listening to this right now in undergrad, and let's say you're a sophomore or something, you got 2 more years. Slow down.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Smell the roses, folks. You don't have to rush. There's so much time you have. Enjoy your youth.
And here's the thing. You're going to be competing with like your academic advisors in undergrad.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know shit. They kind of don't know what the hell they're talking about. Their advice is not really
During undergraduate?
great. Yeah, an undergraduate.
Well, why would you say that? I don't know if I agree with that.
Well, because they're competing with your interests. If you think about for undergraduate institutions, they want to get you out of there in as little as time as possible. If you want to accomplish a lot of these item lists that we kind of gave you, you want to still have time to network, you want to still have time to do research. You're going to be, especially in STEM, you have to be comfortable adding 1 or 2 years to that list.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
'Cause I've had friends who were on an accelerated track, but they had decided to stay 1 or 2 years more to do graduate coursework so they could make themselves look better.
Right.
Make better applicants. Do that.
Yeah.
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 Like, don't just be like, well, my advisors want me to graduate at the 4-year timeline that the university wants.
Right.
And they only want that because that helps them with funding and what is the other stuff, like, I don't know, just
Funding's always what I think of, right? Because
Yeah.
it's like you just have to always hit these check boxes and stupid things, right? Well, it makes sense though.
But that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Do you see my point now?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Like do it for you, don't rush. You're only going to be young once, and the more you go on, especially in like higher level things, the harder and more work and responsibilities you get. So enjoy being dumb, enjoy having less responsibilities.
Yeah.
That's what being young is for. It's supposed to be somewhat fun.
Yeah.
Believe me, your spirit will be destroyed when you're older anyways. There's plenty of time to be grouchy and old.
There is. And
at that point, you won't care anyway because you're like, I wouldn't want to be around this stupid stuff anyway.
Yeah. It is a young person's game, like grad school. I've definitely
sure.
seen people. I've definitely seen people in their 40s and 50s trying to navigate the space, and they stick out like a sore thumb, and they're just a lot more.
Not to discourage
you, but it is. Be prepared for that.
Yeah, you're dealing with youngsters who think they know everything. Of course, graduate students are more humble because they've been humbled enough to get destroyed by physics, knowing that you're always wrong, pretty much.
Yeah.
But they're still young, right?
Yeah.
They do young people's stuff. So even I felt old when I came in. I was like, damn, this is some young shit.
Because even for me, I was 25. Yeah, 25, and I was just like, I'm fairly young, but it's still.
But you were in the average range of the people there.
Yeah, but I was just surprised at how many people were like 22, 23.
True, mostly internationals.
I was like, sheesh. Okay. I was like, man, yeah, it's. But don't be discouraged. Like Terence is saying, you can still play their game It's just you're gonna be if you're older, your priorities are different.
Mm-hmm.
By that point in life, you're probably you're not in your twilight years, but you're like you're sort of like you know what's important and what's not. Like you're not going to be
Yeah.
pulling all nighters.
Yeah.
Like
You're like, I'm going to sleep.
yeah, like
Yeah,
you're
that was me. I was like, I'm never not going to sleep before 10 p.m.
and that's important. Like when you're younger, you're
I will
like
miss homework questions to go to sleep on time.
exactly. When you're younger, you're just like more willing to sacrifice
Yeah.
a lot of things
Right.
that in retrospect, as you get older, you're like, it doesn't
Doesn't
really
matter. No.
Yeah, and so you're willing to put a lot more boundaries in place and respect yourself in that way,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why I think a lot of older people that are older, they respect themselves too much to put themselves through.
Yeah, yeah. You actually have self-respect at that point. You've gone through the exploitation phase, and you're like, okay, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
You know, and also, you know, when you're older, you have like things like health that you care about
It's
now. Like
important,
it
yeah.
actually matters now. You can't just eat ramen noodles and drink Coors Light and then bounce back. You have to actually, you know, take care of yourself, or
Yeah.
else you're done for the rest of the
Yeah.
day. You know,
Yeah.
there's real consequences after that.
Yeah. Oh, one last note too. I want to circle back to the point that I made about philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a minority, like we
Uh-huh.
are, like you kind of have to, and if you enter an institution that maybe you see they don't really.
Speaking of which, I should qualify these books are not mine.
They're mine. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
No, but like if the institution or if the department doesn't like, they don't have a lot of representation in terms of like maybe have people that look like you. Let's say you're a woman in STEM,
Sure.
like at
Brutal.
least- and yeah, it's a lot more
At least in
brutal.
physics, for
navigate.
sure,
Yeah,
brutal.
I know. That's the thing. Like, it's one thing to be a person of color, and then, but you're still in a male-dominated space, and you can still sort of like navigate that pretty easily.
Yeah, yeah.
But like the aspect of like if sex or gender comes in, like you're still you might be treated differently, and you need to.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. I need to put a caveat because it's like it's you have to make sure that you're comfortable in that space.
Mhm. Mm-hmm.
If your department only has one female or like or yeah,
You should
need-
reach out to her for sure.
Yeah, and be like, what's the vibe here?
Yeah.
Is it a get out situation?
Right.
Is it like-
Yeah, she's like, get out.
Or even
Turn around.
yeah, even if you're a person of color, like if you're an institution or a department that's like
Yeah.
has like it's a get out situation where the person's just like yeah, it's just completely
They're just
brainwashed.
shell shocked.
It's like oh, this person doesn't get it. Like they just don't get it. Like, and there's a lot of
Right.
professors that they're allies, I guess. I was gonna put air quotes, but
Mhm.
maybe I'm being kind of disingenuous.
Yeah, yeah.
But if there are allies in the department that want to help,
And you're using this lingo now, Lamont. You mean allies as in like someone who
wants to understand the plight of
okay,
minority
sure.
students.
Sure.
Yeah, that's the
Sure.
thing. Wants to understand.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah, yeah.
It's one thing to want to understand, but it's another thing to like just do it as a sort of like give yourself
gesture.
a pat on the back.
Yeah, yeah.
Like okay, I'm doing my part.
Yeah, yeah.
You want to make sure that you snuff out like that kind of like the
Yeah,
BS,
yeah.
like the BS sort of like helping
Sure.
students out that
For
way.
sure.
So, sorry, there was like a quick our camera with some technical difficulties, I guess.
We're all
But
good now.
that kind of ties up, I think, nicely where the hell our conversation was.
Yeah.
Yeah, just that is my biggest emphasis.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, in recap, what would you say your emphasis is again on?
For choosing grad school,
How to apply? Yeah, like you're in your application.
location, baby. You gotta be soaking up those, rays, chilling on the beach, have some cool shit to go to when you want to, go to live shows, enjoy life.
Or because you might want to buy you might also want to buy like a house, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's
If
important.
you can get a nice fellowship or something, that's what I did basically. For people who don't know, I did a real estate episode a while back with a buddy of our Ray.
Look at that if you're.
Yeah, it's
something
an
you're
older
interested in.
episode. But I bought a house actually. So if you can, I'm a very big proponent of having your cake and eating it too. So I try to do everything I can to always get as much as I possibly can. Because like we were saying earlier, you know, these systems are all meant to exploit you and screw you over. So it's not their fault. It's just how it goes, right? Because people
They want to give you the
make concessions. Yeah. I try not to make concessions. I try to go over the amount.
Yeah.
You know, because people are always trying to strip away. So you have to try to counter that by, you know, taking it full advantage if you can. Because, you know, at the end of the day, you know, this is your life and you have to be your own champion if you want to, you know, make sure you're getting what you believe that you deserve.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
so
For
there
sure.
it is.
Yeah, and if there's anything else that that you think we missed, maybe there's a perspective that it wasn't taken that you feel like is important, please feel free to drop that in the comments
Indeed.
for the people. We'll go ahead and pin the ones that I get
The best one?
we think are really good points.
Sounds good.
And yeah, like what are your success stories? Like maybe there's a roundabout way that you went to go to grad school that was on our checklist. Maybe your application wasn't great, but you killed the interview.
Right.
Like you were just like you were charming the pants off of these people. You made them laugh.
Right.
They're like, man, undeniably this person is so charming.
It's like that classic job interview scene where you just hear laughing in the job interview. You're outside the room. You're like, oh, I might as well go home.
I killed it. Yeah, I killed
No, the
it.
people outside, they're all discouraged because they're
yeah.
you know, the applicant's making them laugh, and you're like, I'm not getting in.
Yeah, true. Yeah, please give us your stories. Like, what is your experience? Please feel free to share that in the comments. And yeah, don't forget about our Patreon. It's patreon.com/Eigenbros.
Indeed. And thank you guys. Thank you, patrons, once again. We greatly appreciate you guys. And then to wrap it up, make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe. Did you say that already?
No.
Okay, good. And then check out Eigenbros.com, Eigenbros on Twitter, Eigenbros Instagram, Eigenbros2 on TikTok. And and we just added the Discord server on the Patreon. So for more incentive, if you guys want to join the Patreon, you get access to the Eigenbros members Discord, where you can have conversations and tell us what you want to see on the podcast. It's kind of not really active right now that much, but I think it's gonna start getting there. Yeah. We're still trying to figure out bugs, sort things out, but it's getting there.
It's getting there.
You know?
Yeah. And if you want an emoji, pay us a little bit extra and let us know. No, but anyway, seriously, yeah, thank you, folks, and we'll see you next week.
All right, guys.
Peace.